What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. I am so excited to be able to bring this episode to you. My friend Josh Priddy is coming on the podcast today. He is a Miami Heat fan. I work with him during the day, and I am so excited to have him come on the podcast for the very first time, and hopefully what will not be the last time. He is on the podcast for one reason only. The Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat are battling it out in the Eastern Conference playoffs right now for the NBA, and I just wanted to sit down and talk to him about it. Game 1 is in the books as of time of recording. As of the time you guys are seeing this, Game 2 will have already happened, but we, right now, do not know what happened. So take that with a grain of salt. We don't know how Game 2 went. We don't know if the Heat won. We don't know if the Celtics won. We don't know if it was close. We don't know if it was a blowout. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if Jimmy Butler dragged himself out there with one leg and dropped 49 points on the Celtics. I don't know. I have no idea what happened. So, looking at it in a vacuum, that's what we tried to do. Asked him some good questions, at least I think, and he brought it to me just like he always does, and he was very, very awesome to have on the podcast. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. But with that being said, let's get to the interview. Josh Priddy on the Lopes Goes Last podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. I am here with a very special guest today. You would have heard it in the intro already, but Josh Priddy has joined us here in the Lopes Goes Last podcast studio. One of the few live guests that we've had here. Obviously, you all know Dan. He's been on the show plenty of times already, and you will have seen him yesterday in the live stream by the time this comes out. We haven't recorded it as of we're recording this, but you will have already seen him in that if you haven't seen him in anything else. And if you haven't seen him in anything else, where have you been for the last 4 months? Because he's on most weeks at this point. But Josh, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you making time out of your busy schedule to not only meet my dog, but to come in on the podcast and join us. So first of all, just how are you, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Doing good. It was nice to meet Moose.
Yes.
Great dog. It was a little uncertain to me at first, but we came a long way in about 2.5 minutes. So.
That's usually how it goes with him. He's usually, he's like, you're the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and then you're the best thing that's ever happened to me in a matter of 5 minutes. It's usually how it goes. But glad that you guys are friends now, and I'm glad that we are still friends, because right now we are, there's a lot of tension in the room, there's a lot of tension at work, and obviously I joke, I kid, but if you cannot see it, he's not kidding, great, he hates me, it's great. So Miami Heat fan in the house, the second Miami Heat fan to appear on the podcast. Last year was obviously a lot worse for me considering the nightmare had already occurred, so it was just basically point and laugh at Lopes Day on the podcast. But right now the nightmare has not quite happened yet. And it also may not happen, just depending on how things go. But we're going to get into all of that. Josh, first things first. When the Heat lose their play-in game to the Sixers by, I believe, just a singular point, and you know that the only way you're going to make the playoffs is you got to go up against Boston, this year more than any, how did that make you feel at this point?
So, not great for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, didn't want to face you guys in general. I was preferring to play against the Knicks. I would rather have that first round matchup. But after Jimmy got hurt, it was really excruciating, much more than it would have been originally. So, not an ideal situation. I think if anyone were to be able to pull it off, it would be us. Coming from game 1, not looking like us. A lot of basketball left to be played. Still missing Terry Rozier. He's not going to be back on Wednesday either. So hopefully he'll be back for game 3 on, I guess, Friday.
I think it might be Saturday.
I know we had this extra day break that they don't typically have, and now we're playing 3 games in 4 days.
Is it that bad?
Tomorrow, yes. There's a back-to-back in there.
That's not good.
I'm guessing we'll get a day off, travel to Miami, and then back-to-back in Miami.
That's possible. Yeah, I haven't looked at the the schedule that closely. I do know that obviously the next game is on Wednesday. I thought that the game after that was Saturday for some reason. I could be way off, but obviously you have it pulled up, so you're going to correct me here. But yeah, definitely that makes a lot of sense. I think that the only way that the only way that the Heat know how to do it at this point is to underachieve in the regular season and then just explode in the playoffs. So if there is any team that's going to be able to pull this off again, it's you guys for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I told you this in person. I told you this in private. I'm telling you this right now. There was nobody rooting for the Miami Heat more in that playoff series, or excuse me, in that play-in game, not playoff series, than I was. And I forget who I was saying this to specifically, but I talked about how if you are ducking certain teams in the playoffs, then quite frankly, you shouldn't be considering being in the playoffs. I believe it was actually Justin at work. We were talking about the Lakers and the Nuggets, how people were saying that the Lakers should intentionally lose their first play-in game in order to avoid playing the Nuggets, who were the 2 seed, because the Thunder were a better matchup. And if I'm the Lakers, I would want the challenge of facing the Nuggets first round because, my goodness, if I can get past them, I'm going to feel like I'm unstoppable. I mean, that's your title favorites, at least in the West, in my opinion. So I feel the same way about the Heat. I don't want to dodge you guys. I don't want to, have anybody saying, well, if they had just faced the Heat, they wouldn't have won the championship. I don't want anybody saying that. Now, I don't know. Maybe nobody would say that. And there was a part of me that, of course, was like, I don't want anything to do with the Heat in the playoffs, because I don't. But at the same time, I didn't want to duck the Nets 2 years ago. I don't want to duck the Heat now. I didn't want to duck anybody. So it's just one of those things. Do you kind of feel the same way, where you're like, you know what? The heck with it. We beat you twice. We're going to beat you again.
Yeah, to an extent. Jimmy getting hurt kind of put a little bit of a spin on that, because I knew if we did end up playing the Knicks, which it was too late by the time we got hurt, but we ended up playing the Knicks, we would have met you guys if we did meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. Give us a little more time to warm up. Give Jimmy time to get healthy. Now none of those things are happening. I also need to call myself out because I misspoke. The next games are the 24th, 27th, and 29th. I was misinformed on a podcast, and I believed it. I want to do the same to you guys. So
well, I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know where I saw the graphic that the next one was Saturday, but I did find that odd that there's two days in between each game right now until obviously we get to game 4 or 5.
Right.
So that is odd, but yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I did hear that they were trying something new, where like they're spacing out the first round a little more to try and help with injuries or whatever. But it's not working.
If we're going from Sunday to Wednesday for this first game, which is that's a big long stretch.
Yeah, and then Wednesday to Saturday is the same.
Yeah,
same stretch.
And everyone else was still on the same cadence of Saturday and Tuesday, or Saturday and Monday playing. So I don't know why we were the exception, but
I don't know.
I don't really care, honestly. I just know that's play when we play. Hopefully squeeze at least one out. I don't want to get swept.
Yeah, and that's actually a great transition to my next question, which is obviously we both watched game 1. We saw what happened from our own lenses. And no, I'm not just talking about the fact that we're both blind and wearing glasses. When you're looking at it as a Heat fan, are you looking at it the same way like, your Bam Adebayos are looking at it, in which I'm fairly certain the quote was, things would have been different had they not opened the game on a 14-0 run. Your team still firmly believes that they can beat the Celtics 4 games out of now 6. I just don't see it personally. I don't see how it's even physically possible with the talent that you guys have and don't have. But are you kind of in that same boat of like, you believe that you could beat us 4 out of 6? And if so, who is that guy for you that needs to step up big time to get there?
Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely in that same boat where I think it could happen. Now, if you ask me point blank, which one do I think will happen? If I'm being honest, not sure I would be giving you the same answer, but for all intents and purposes, I'm going to ride out the Heat. I do think if there's any team in the entire league, in the history of the league, that has the ability to pull this off, it is us. The guys that got to step up are Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier, who we don't have right now. Terry's been a huge step forward for us in the offense, especially. He's been able to drop 30 plus a night, especially there late in the regular season. So if we can get him back, get him healthy, get him scoring some points, like when he's in a position of running the offense, especially with Jimmy being out right now. We got a lot of guys who have the ability to step up between Jaime Jaquez and Jovic, and lots of guys who have that ability. But I think who would give us the most spark would be Tyler Hero, which he did now last playing game, and Terry Rozier, who hasn't had the chance in the past few weeks, but hopefully he will soon.
Yeah, fair enough. I think obviously the easy answer is Tyler Hero. He's your best player offensively. Obviously, you could say that Bam is just different offensively.
Right.
Obviously, much different skill set, and you can argue that he is more versatile offensively. But I would still say that just pure talent-wise, Tyler Hero is your best offensive player when he's healthy and when he's on. He's a guy that could shoot the ball out of the gym and drive. He's a great passer when he's on and when he's kind of, when he's locked in like that.
Yeah.
And he can be a plus defender if he locks in as well. I've seen him play very good defense. Now, unfortunately for the Heat, not super consistently. However, he still does have that ability when he wants to have it. So I think that's the easy answer. I think, honestly, for me, I think you need to get Duncan Robinson healthy. I think that's really one of the main ones because he's somebody that's just killed us in the past. And not just killed us, but he's killed several teams' playoff hopes over the years just with his ability to navigate around screens, handle the ball in a limited capacity, and just really just hug those screens so tight and get his shot off in the blink of an eye and still hit tough shots. And obviously he has great range as well. And this year he showcased his ability more to drive with or without the ball. Yeah. And then obviously also, do backdoor cutting and stuff like that and be a good slasher and stuff and set screen. So he's kind of grown a little bit. Took him long enough. He's 30, somewhere in that range. So took him a while, but you know what? It's better late than never. Obviously, he stuck around. I mean, it wasn't more than probably a year and a half ago that if I'd have sat you down on this podcast and asked you who's the worst contract in the NBA right now, you would have probably said Duncan Robinson because he was sitting on the end of the bench. He was getting DNPs all year long, and he was making $20 million a year just doing nothing. So, but now he's obviously a big part of what you guys do. I think he's got to step up. Now, obviously, last game was last game. He was on a very heavy minutes restriction, wasn't used very much, but that's fine. But 2 days off. You're hoping maybe game 2 he plays 18 or 20 minutes, and then maybe, he sticks there for the next few games, but he's fully healthy and he's reintegrated. I think he's a guy that can step up for you guys.
Yeah, he's an incredibly streaky player, and not even as much as like game to game, as even larger than that, week to week, month to month. Like when he's on. During the playoffs last year, he was on fire. Same with Caleb Martin to an extent. Like they can be these incredible players, but when they're not. They're not bad, but they're just not what we need, especially right now, being down without Jimmy. Thomas Bryant is another player I would like to see play at all.
Yeah, that was surprising to me.
Yeah, Porzingis, Bam really struggled with. We struggled with overall as a team. I don't know why Thomas Bryant didn't play. It was coach's decision. Would like to see him get some action. Obviously, I would say Bam is a significantly better defender, but if it's not working, I mean, we got to try something else. He's the next man up. So
sure.
I would love to see him get some minutes. And, it can't get worse. We lost by 20 in the box score, but we all know that game was a lot worse than a 20-point loss.
Yeah, for sure. I would say also it surprised me just how little your bigs in general played. I mean, Bam notwithstanding, of course, but even Bam, yes, he's a big, but he's an undersized big, and he always has been. He's 6'9". Like he's not now. He doesn't play 6'9". He obviously plays much taller than that. But the fact that I think Kevin Love only played somewhere in the range of 12 to 15 minutes, maybe not even, with all your injuries and Thomas Bryant not playing, your bigs minutes. I mean, if you're counting Jovic as a big, I guess, but he's more of a point forward, quite frankly. So your big minutes was Bam. And then a couple minutes of Kevin Love, who at this point in his career is little more than a stretch 4. He doesn't really defend particularly well. He's not as nearly as effective of a rebounder as he once was. So I just don't understand where your big minutes were going and what the plan was, considering 2 of the top 6 players on the Celtics are bigs, Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford.
Yeah. So
now, obviously, they have varying skill sets between the two, but I think one of the main reasons you gave up so many offensive rebounds, and I say you as if he did it. Obviously, he didn't. He wouldn't have allowed any offensive rebounds. He is locked down, this guy. But in his church league, he's very, very locked down. No, but I think one of the main reasons you gave up so many offensive rebounds was because you just didn't have enough big bodies out there, and it scared me when I was seeing like Jovic and Kevin Love out there at the same exact time, and no Bam. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, you got nobody at the rim that's helping. You got nobody there to really be an interior force. And plus, I know I told you this in private the other day, but I said that I thought Jovic played well. Looked into it. He had one of the worst plus minuses on your whole team during that game. So he really, I guess, defensively struggled, and I just didn't notice it as much. But yeah, very interesting rotation. I definitely think that, when you've got guys like Thomas Bryant and Orlando Robinson who have played big roles for you all year, and they didn't even get a single minute. Now, Orlando Robinson's not as much surprising, but Thomas Bryant, I feel like he gotta.
Yeah.
At least when Kristaps on the bench, what can he not guard Al Horford?
Yeah.
Who's 37, for 5 minutes? I mean, that seems silly to me. So I definitely agree with you there.
Yeah, Patty Mills not playing was also a little surprising. Obviously, he's kind of down there in terms of the depth chart, but he has a lot of experience. He's a veteran, good locker room presence.
your point guards are really thin right now because Jimmy, obviously he's your 3, but a lot of times he's your 1. Let's be honest. And Terry Rozier's out, so I'm surprised if he played during the regular season when all those guys are healthy. What's he doing not playing now? It's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely trust Inspo above any other coach in any sport in the history of athletics. I love.
I was gonna say as you should until you kept going with that statement.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be in the conversation. I'm obviously very biased, but all sports got to be up there. Got to be. I mean, I'm still maybe a little biased, but top 5, even.
I'd say later top 10. That would be where I'd put him.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But I definitely trust in him and his ability, so I'm sure he's making good decisions. I don't fully understand some of them right now, but he's got a proven track record. I'm not questioning his choices here. But also, one quick side note to hop on. A lot of speculation. I don't know if you have any Celtics Boston sports fans listening to this podcast, but we do have to clear the air on something, and I haven't talked to you about this. The Tatum foul towards the end of the game was not intentional. There's been
the Caleb Martin foul.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
For one, it was kind of just a crazy play. I'm not blaming Drew Holiday, but if we're pointing fingers, he did push him. There was a timeout called right beforehand, and people are kind of speculating that Spoelstra kind of put a hit on Jason Tatum. I've been watching Miami basketball since I was 6 years old. It's not. I mean, I don't know. I hope you don't think that. I know that wasn't the case. But if there's any Celtics fans out here, I hope you know that was not intentional. It was a basketball play. It was unfortunate. Kind of a little extra zealous, a little extra scrappy down late, but there was no intent of injury there.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. From my perspective, I saw it happen. I will have to go back and look at the video again. I didn't see a Drew Holiday shove, nor have I heard people talk about the Drew Holiday shove, but I'm also not watching a lot of stuff like that, so it's possible that I could have just missed it, so I'm willing to go back and look at that to see if that's the case, because obviously if that's the case, then okay, fair enough. I looked at it from a different perspective. I also, I would think that if Caleb Martin was going to try to injure Jason Tatum, he would have tried a heck of a lot harder than he did. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he did. But I do think it was a hard foul. Yeah. I do think that should he have not been pushed, we'll give that caveat, it was a bit excessive and a bit unnecessary. However, I have had my legs taken out from under me plenty of times when I played basketball. Sometimes by opponents, sometimes by my own teammates in practice. It just happens. So I'm willing to forgive that part of it. What I looked at it from a perspective of was, okay, how is Jason Tatum going to react to this? How are the rest of the Celtics going to react to it? Because let's put our minds back to Game 2 of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, in which Jimmy Butler was clowning us, and the Heat were clowning us, and Jimmy Butler was talking smack, and then Grant Williams got in his face and started jaw-jacking. Now, there's two ways you could think of this. One, good for Grant. He's got the stones to stand up for himself and for his teammates. Fine. I'm okay with you believing that. That's great. And part of me believes it too. And the second point of view is it's not his place. He shouldn't have done it, and he was asking for it. Again, I agree with that. So my take on it is somewhere in the middle. He only did that because he felt like he looked around and he could feel that series slipping away. And he felt like nobody else on that team was going to do anything about it. And so he felt like if I don't do something, no one's going to do it. And you know what? Gosh darn it, that takes some guts. Now, was it dumb? Absolutely. Was it his place? Absolutely not. Should he have done it? Heck no. But you know what? I can't blame him. Yeah. I just can't, because you know what? None of the other guys gave a rip about it enough to do it anyway.
Right.
And so I'm looking at it going, okay, you're winning by 20 points or whatever at that point. It was like a minute left in the game. It's your best player. That's a hard foul. They just I can see where people are saying that's it. Like this is in-game reaction now. How are they going to react? Is Jason Tatum going to roll around on the ground, writhing in pain, trying to get a call and trying to get a flagrant call? Are his teammates going to just let him sit there? What are they going to do? No. Jaylen Brown, who is the guy that everybody says hates Jason Tatum, by the way, walked right up to Caleb Martin and got right in his face. And that, to me, says that this team's a little different than we were last year. We're not going to take that kind of stuff, whether it was intentional or not. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for how are we reacting. And by the way, Jason Tatum, Winston Payne, stood right up and nailed both free throws, and that is all that I can ask of somebody that takes that kind of fall. Now, I'm not going to ask you to stand up and start pounding your chest and like being like a crazy person. At the very least, just stand up and hit your free throws and keep on playing. And that's exactly what they did. So I thought that the reaction was, could it have been a little better? I guess, if you want to really be picky about it. But I thought it was just about as perfect as it could have been a reaction. Yeah. Like the little scuffle, like, hey, don't mess with that guy. Like, don't do that. And Caleb was like, didn't mean to. Sorry. You know, like, it's all good. We're gonna go this way. And then there was another another hard foul where he wrapped him up and stuff, and they seemed to be fine. Yeah. So it's all good. Like, to me, it's all good. Yeah. I was more worried about, like, okay, when that stuff happens, how are we gonna react? And I thought the reaction was great.
Yeah. I definitely see both sides of it. If it was my team, I would have been like, heck yeah, like, get up in his face, yell at him. Obviously, it's not my team. So I think Jaylen Brown kind of overreacted. Yes, if it was my team, I'm like, good, do that more. But again, back to the play. Well, first off, the shove was not my words. That's from other people on the internet that I read. I didn't even really notice it, to be honest with you. I didn't even know it was an issue.
While you're talking, I'm going to look it up and see if I can find it.
Yeah, pull it up. It's not like a hard push or anything like that. Like I said, I don't think blame should be assigned. Just a hard play. He was definitely frustrated. Nothing malicious about it. But if you are going to go around pointing fingers, I think you need to put Jrue Holiday in that conversation. You can also, when you're watching this replay, Caleb Martin's looking at the basket the entire time. He's never really been an aggressive player. You can talk. But, I don't think anything malicious was done in the slightest there. And, say you're fully convinced that this was a malicious play to hurt someone.
There was now I have to look at it slowed down. But I do see, now I don't know if it's related or not, quite frankly, but I do see a bit of full speed ahead. Sorry about that. Full speed ahead, Caleb Martin's running and Jrue Holiday either just puts his arms out reflectively or he did push him. So I am looking to see if I can get a slow motion angle on that so that I can take a look.
Push is definitely a loose term, but there was contact at high speed, and those things can happen.
Let's see. I don't know. That's kind of. I feel like the push. I can see the push. Is that enough to push him that far, that hard? I don't know. So I will say there was a push. I will give you that. There definitely was a push. So
there would have still been contact without it. Would it have been that bad? Not sure. Probably would never know. But regardless, main point A, it was not intentional. If you want to say that it was, that timeout towards the end of the game had nothing to do with it. People say it's a kind of inconspicuous, weird that we'd call a timeout that late. You don't know by now. We don't ever give up in a game. We were down, like 20 points with a couple minutes. Doesn't matter. We
Not in today's NBA.
pulled off
doesn't.
crazier upsets.
I think we were up 36, and you ended up cutting it to like 17 in a matter of like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that I would have called the timeout too. So no, I don't think it was malicious at all.
No.
I definitely don't agree with Brian Scalabrine, in which he was saying that it was a bit shady that they called the timeout, and then immediately that you're just trying to stir up stuff that's not there. The rivalry has enough. This is gonna sound horrible. Stank on it as is. I don't subscribe to that kind of thing. So no, I agree with you there. But in terms of game 2 and then obviously beyond, what do you need to see defensively from the Heat to turn this thing around? Because I gotta be honest with you, you guys I think could have a phenomenal offensive night and still come out on the short end by double digits, just because of the firepower the Celtics have and the fact that your zone defense, given our personnel, is generally not going to work. At least not for long stretches like it has in the past.
Right.
I've literally seen you guys play zone defense every possession for like an entire quarter and a half and hold us to like 12 points. Like that's just not going to happen with Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday now. So what do you need to see defensively from your team at this point to kind of turn things around?
Yeah, a couple things. First and foremost, we got to rebound. Have to rebound. We don't get the ball, get second chance points. Like as a team and as a player, that's the most demoralizing thing, is giving up consistent offensive rebounds and second chance points. Like that, you're just not ever going to win a game doing that. I also think we need to do a better job shutting down Porzingis, which I already kind of touched on. Like Tatum and Brown, they're going to do what they're going to do. We're not going to be able to shut them down. We can, more or less prevent some stuff, but they're going to get their 15, 20 points regardless. So we need to focus on the bigs. We need to shut him down. He can't be getting, 18 points and 7 rebounds, or he honestly didn't even have that many rebounds. Porzingis did,
Nope.
But shut him down. Worry about everyone else. That's what I would say is the method. And also the zone obviously is not playing in our favor. So either we need to go man, or we need to shift that zone, or some sort of hybrid. That's for Spo to figure out, but something. I mean, we got to change, because what happened last week, our last game, is not going to get us anywhere close. We're going to lose by 30 if we do that again. So got to step it up. I think the spread was like 14.5 this past game. I'm sure it'll be closer to that 20 this game. So there's a decent bit that has to change on the defensive scheme. We just got to play better. I've told you at the office, we've been playing pretty bad towards the end of the regular season. It's eerily similar to how last season ended. We lose the first round of the play-in game. We beat the Bulls the second play-in game. Looked phenomenal in that game against the Bulls. No Jimmy, shooting well, playing great. Okay, you texted me and you're like, all right, I changed my mind. I don't want to play the Heat anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, if anyone could do it, we might be able to actually shake something up. Game 1 did not make me feel confident at all in that regard. I still, think that we have a chance.
Yeah.
But I will say, if we don't win tomorrow, going down 2-0 is really going to hurt. Granted, we're going back to Miami after that, but that's a tough physical, mental stretch to pull off.
Yeah, for sure. And Dan was on the podcast. I don't know if it was last week or the week before that we did the NBA play-in stuff. I think it was last week, where he asked me, do any of these teams that are in the play-in right now have the ability to beat the Celtics? And he ended the sentence there, and I said, well, absolutely, yeah, some of them do, for sure. And he said, oh, no, I just mean, at all, one game. And I'm like, oh, no, they all do. Of course they all do. I mean, obviously, I think that all 4 teams that were in the play-in have the ability to beat the Celtics in a game. If anything, due to the fact that all 4 of them beat the Celtics in a game during the regular season, although I'm not sure Chicago did. But they clearly have the ability to. I know we lost to the Hawks. I know we lost to the Sixers. Actually, that's just kidding. We did not lose to you guys in the regular season. But obviously, you're the Heat. That goes without saying. You guys can beat us. The problem is not the ability for me to believe that you guys can beat us in a game. I just don't see how you're going to beat us 4 times. it's not just winning one game. It is somehow figuring out a way to shut down what essentially is 5 all-star to borderline all-stars for 7 games. That's the difficult thing for me, to kind of sit there and point like, okay, I could easily see the Celtics having a bad game too. And getting out of their own, getting out of the rhythm and doing things they shouldn't be doing and doing iso ball and slowing things down and you guys pulling out an upset win. I could see it.
Yeah.
But I can't see you doing it over and over and over again 4 times out of what now is the next 6 games.
Yeah.
And then if you lose game 2, like, I'm sitting there thinking, how in the world is a Jimmy Butler-less, Terry Rozier-less Miami Heat team going to beat us 4 out of 5 games when they had all those guys in the regular season and we beat them every time?
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way for me to think that that's going to happen. Now, am I 100% convinced? No. I've said that to you before. I will never be convinced that you all are dead until you are literally dead and someone looks at me and says, oh no, they're dead. Until the 000 strike and I see Boston 4, Miami, whatever, at the end of it, I'm going to believe that you all have a chance, just because that's what's trained in my body and in my blood at this point, and I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to be difficult with how motivated our guys are right now and how motivated Jason Tatum is and how motivated Jaylen Brown is and how much better he has gotten, that even if 1 or 2 of the guys don't have great games, that y'all are going to be able to stop us without all your best weapons. Now, if it's 2-1 and we're going into game 4 and Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier come back, then we're talking different story here because it's a close series and you're basically at full strength. But without Butler, without Rozier, it's going to be tough. And for me, I look at it and go, man, I don't want Jaylen Brown doing anything. I don't want Jaylen Brown touching the ball if I can help it.
Yeah.
Unless he's wide open. Unless he gets a steal and it's just a wide open fast break dunk, or it's a kick, drive, kick. Jaylen Brown's wide open. You can shoot that 3. Great. I don't want him doing anything else because against the Heat, he stinks. Now, he had a decent game last time. It actually ended up being a little more efficient than what I had given him credit for. By the end, I think he was 6 for 10 from the field and 3 for 5 from 3, or 2 for 5 from 3, or something like that. So it ended up being reasonably okay. But it's starting out. I mean, yeah, he had the first couple of buckets, but then after that, he missed like 4 or 5 straight shots. And I was like, oh, God, here we go. He's missing layups. He's turning the ball over. Here we go. And it's like, But Drew Holiday's not turning the ball over right now against you guys. Derek White looks really, really good against you guys. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis and what he's able to do against your zone speaks for itself. He's able to get open shots and post guys up, and it's good. That's all great. Lean on that. Don't give it to guys that struggle against the Heat like Jaylen Brown does, or heck, even Drew Holiday. Not even to say that he's struggling, but we proved last game he scored 6 points. We don't need him to drop 20 points unless obviously Jason Tatum has a really bad day or Derek White just can't hit a 3 for whatever reason on a certain day. But that's the thing, is that when one guy struggles, you've got other guys that are going to be able to pick it up. Man, your guys' end, Tyler Hero has a bad day, y'all are screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, you got not to say you don't have anybody that can't step up at all. It's obviously not true. But, are you going to bank on Jaime Jaquez or Caleb Martin to drop 35 points to make up for the fact that Tyler Hero only scored 12?
I think you could bank on Jaime. That's a super hot take. But I do think that consistently put in that spot, if Tyler Hero got hurt right now and Jaime has to step up the next, hopefully, 6 games, he'll have 1 or 2 of those 30-plus games. I really do believe that. Consistently,
that's what I mean.
And this might be another hot take. I don't super love plus minus as a metric of just one game. It can be kind of skewed.
No, that's not a hot take. I definitely agree with that.
So Jaylen Brown had the second best at 17, plus 17.
Yep.
Who do you think on your team had the second worst?
Second worst? I wouldn't be shocked if it was Tatum just because he was out there for that entire big run where they didn't give a rip, and I don't think Jaylen Brown was in at that point.
Yeah.
So that doesn't shock me too much, and that's another reason why. I mean, the guy had 23, 10, and 10. Like, you're gonna look at that and think that he stunk.
Right.
But obviously, no. But it's one of those things where I agree with you. I think plus minus on a game to game basis does not tell the full story. But the reason I brought it up with Jovic earlier is because I didn't realize that he was a main cog on the floor during our runs. Because it's not like we, we're just beating you guys by 40 for the entirety of the game. It was 26-23 at one point, and I think he went into halftime only down 10. So for the first half, it was a reasonably close game, but then that whole big run in the third quarter seemed like Jovic was out there for the entire thing and couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
So that was more what I was looking at. I didn't realize it, but regardless, I agree with you. I think that another big difference this year is not only Jason Tatum's ability to handle double teams and make the right play, but Jaylen Brown's ability to handle double teams and make the right play. Now, Brown's obviously, he scares me sometimes when he'll pass out of a double team and he'll almost throw it away, but you know what? It's good enough. He got the pass out. Now we're moving. And we're good. But it's better than he takes one dribble to his left and he gets stripped like he did last year, basically. So
keep pushing him left.
And that's why, you guys, you know who he played really well against this year, which was weird. Denver. I mean, I think. I don't know if you could pull it up. In our last game against Denver, he had 50 points. He went off, and we still lost because Jason Tatum stunk that day. It was just a really bad game from JT. It was one of his few games this year where he really had a hard time. He just had an off night. Let me see.
Yeah, 41.
41. Yeah, I said 50. I was a little off, but still, point being. Porzingis played well, but look at Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum went 5 for 13, 2 for 5 from 3, only 15 points. Just an off night. He was -2 from the field. Not a great night.
41 points with a terrible 3-point shooting, 2 for 7.
Yeah, because he was just able to drive and drive and drive, and as good of a defender as KCP is, Jaylen Brown's one of the few guys that's a wing that's slightly more athletic than KCP is. KCP locks guys up due to his athleticism and his length. And Jaylen Brown's got him slightly beat in that regard, at least as of what I've seen. So yeah, I'm sure if we played him in the finals, KCP would throw on his clamps and Jaylen Brown might average 3 points in the series somehow. But point being, there's just certain teams that guys play better against than others. Whether it's scheme, whether it's personnel, whether it's both, whether it's location, whether it's just... I mean, I've played in gyms where every time I went there, I've struggled. And then the next night, I'll go to another gym and I'll feel great. And I'm like, what the hell happened? And it's just something as simple as... Man, the backdrop of the hoop makes my depth perception go crazy. You just never know with little things like that. And so, a guy like Jaylen Brown, I think that he can take a bit of a backseat in a series like this where he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands a lot. Yeah, sure, if he sees a mismatch that he likes and he wants to attack it every once in a while, go ahead, that's fine. I mean, I thought the game that he played the other night was great. He didn't have the ball in his hands a whole lot. He didn't take a whole lot of shots. He picked his spots. He got to the rim a few times. Yeah, sure, he missed a couple of layups, but okay. When you're up by 30, you can miss a couple of layups, and I'm not going to get too upset at you, right? So... I think that, guys like White, guys like Tatum, guys like Porzingis are the guys that are going to need to really take the lead in this series. Because KP's a mismatch against you guys specifically. But when we play if we played teams like Cleveland, like Orlando, like Denver, like, what's another good one? I don't know if I'd say New York. I think he's actually really good against the Knicks. Like Milwaukee. Guys that have really good defensive centers that can even guard in the perimeter, he's going to struggle more. And so Jaylen Brown's going to have to be a guy that steps up, perhaps. Or Drew Holiday is going to have... It just depends on the matchup. And I think this series, Jaylen Brown, I think he can confidently, at first, say, I don't have the matchup this time. And then if guys struggle, okay, Jaylen Brown, you're going to be the one that steps up because he's struggling. And I mean, heck... second team All NBA last year guy as your step up if you guys need me guy. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I mean, especially in terms of talking about matchups, that's a good matchup to have a mismatch against, and what statistically has the best odds of being the NBA Finals is you and the Nuggets, which probably my two least favorite teams in the league. Nothing personal against either one. We kind of go to battle with you guys every time. Actually, it is personal with Jokic. I take that back.
Interesting.
Which sucks because he's a likable guy. I've obviously seen him playing a lot more over the past few years when we're matched up, and he's become this MVP. But rewind 5-6 years ago, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but Markieff Morris and Jokic got into a little scuffle. Markieff Morris is a player known to have lifelong back injuries. Hadn't played in a while.
And Jokic shoved him very hard.
Him in the back.
I do remember
that. It was
that.
A little foul. He probably fouled him harder than he should have. Morris did. But it's like, hard fouls happen. He gets up. He's not paying attention. Jokic, big dude. I'm not going to try to drop his height and weight, but it's a lot. Runs 2 arms to the back, and he just fully, and he never played another game in the NBA after that. Yeah. He literally ruined this guy's career. And no one talked about that because he's a superstar, and they want the face of the league to be like this nice, bubbly, horse-riding, goofy dude, which he is. He's likable, and that sucks because
he's likable, and that sucks.
And it does. Same with Tyrese Maxey, great guy, seems very nice, drives me crazy, but that's another tangent. But yeah, I mean, he ruined this guy's career. Yeah. I've seen interviews with Markieff Morris talking about it, even as recently as this summer. There was never any sort of communication after that. A lot of the times I'll see this stuff and I'm like, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. They could talk after the game. He could shoot him a message, be like, hey, dude, I'm sorry that you're struggling with this, yada, yada. None of that happened. Not saying Markieff Morris was in the right, but Jokic definitely wasn't either.
Sure.
So that rubbed me the wrong way. Losing in the finals
didn't
really rubbed me the wrong way.
Fair enough.
So yeah, and then you guys, my sister and brother-in-law are up in Boston. They're Celtics fans. You're a Celtics fan, so it's it's cool for you guys to be good and get a win. But as a Heat fan, the selfishness in me is like, please anyone except the two of you.
No, I understand. I mean, it's like if I ever saw the Jets go to the Super Bowl. I mean, somebody would be like, dude, you're a Patriots fan. You've had 1 million of them. Let them have just this one. They haven't even won one yet. And I'd be like, no, they are to be tormented for all eternity. So I understand. To me, it's nothing personal with the Heat. I think it's just more frustration and confusion more than anything of how do they keep doing this, and why are we not investigating their effort during the regular season? That's where I'm coming from of look, if you're this good, how are you losing to Charlotte in November? What are we doing with our lives here? You know what I mean? Now granted, I'm pretty sure we lost to Charlotte in November, so I guess I can't use that as an example, but point being I don't mean just lose by 1 point because you had a bad day against Charlotte. I'm talking you lose by 15 points and Jimmy Butler took two shots,
right?
And you're like, what is this? We know this isn't you. Come on. Are we not gonna? This is a primetime game for some reason. Heat and Charlotte is a primetime game. That would be a very bad primetime game.
It's funny that you keep giving Charlotte all these strays because Jason Tatum did the same thing in the offseason. I don't know if you saw that video. Talking about load management. He's like, if we play Charlotte on a Monday, I'm not going to not play. And then you guys lost Charlotte on a Monday.
Yeah, and it would have been worse if JT had a bad day, but he dropped 45, so it's not his fault.
I know, but that's just so funny.
No, it is definitely ironic and funny for those that are not Celtics fans who didn't have to endure that. But that's okay.
And you guys aren't suffering too much off that loss. So.
No, we're not. That's for sure. But last question. I know you got to get rolling. I want to be respectful of your time. And again, thank you so much for doing this, Josh. It's been a lot of fun. Last question I have. We talked about defense for the Heat. We talked about who needs to step up offensively. is there any way that if you can get past Boston, let's just say that for me, obviously for you it would be, but for me it would be like, oh, I'm going to stab myself in the brain until the pain stops kind of thing.
Yeah.
Say you get past Boston. Are you winning the championship at that point? Because you still have to go through what looks to be Cleveland, because they're up 2-0, so I'm going to assume that Orlando doesn't make the comeback, although I picked Orlando to win that series, so I definitely think they could. Although I also didn't know that Donovan Mitchell was back healthy. I thought he was still hurt, so whoops. And then after that, we can assume maybe Milwaukee, maybe New York, maybe one of these other teams that it's going to be a tough matchup, and that's just getting through the East.
Yeah.
And then you've got to go up against Minnesota or OKC, or Denver again, or one of these other juggernauts out in the West. I mean, God forbid, even if the Lakers get there, or the Clippers or something like that. Like, if you're able to get past Boston and Jimmy's still out for the rest of the playoffs, like, do you even give yourself a chance to win the finals at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I really do. Like I've said a few times here, I think if there's anyone that can do it, I think it's us that can do it. I'm trying to see how far this series stretches. So if we go to 7 games, the last will be May 5th, which will put Jimmy at about 2.5 weeks of being out. I know you said if he doesn't play, but they said 2 to 3 weeks. I've heard that it's worse than that, so there's a more likely than not he won't. But hopefully he'll be back for round 2. But to answer your actual question, I do. My biggest fear in the East is the Knicks. They're playing good.
Interesting.
Wouldn't see them until the Eastern Conference Finals. But they're playing very well. There's a lot of basketball, a lot of potential injury that could happen, which I don't wish on anyone. But that is a very real thing. We've been plagued with injuries. Historically, the Knicks, you guys, which I've also told you, don't wish this at all in the slightest, and I honestly genuinely hope it doesn't, because I don't want there to be any asterisk beside the win if we do pull it out. But I feel like there's a decent chance you guys have someone go down, just because I feel like you've been more healthy this year than you have in the past. Yes, you still had players get hurt, but nothing super crazy.
Right.
So I hope everyone stays healthy, and I think that's the only way you don't make it to the finals. The Knicks also could potentially give you some trouble. They're ramping up too.
They're just scrappy, man.
Yeah.
Like they don't quit. They're a lot like you guys, which scares me, because every time we played them, we've been up by double digits and they just keep on hacking away at it, and they've either one ended up pulling it out or we barely end up pulling it out in the end. It's like, oh, good. It's like, good. Thank God that's over. So I'm with you.
And game 2 was very Heat-esque in the way that they pulled that off, and that's our other, big, long-time rival. Pat Riley was obviously there before he came to Miami. There was all that drama with him leaving, and we beat them in the playoffs, and then we beat them, in 91 or whatever that was, and they beat us the next few years, and then there was that whole fight with Van Gundy grabbing the leg. So there's a lot of history, a lot of drama between both teams. Obviously love both matchups. Hopefully we play both matchups, and hopefully both of them go longer than 4 games. But that is my main concern. And then Denver does worry me a lot. Just because, we all saw last year, I would say that they're probably a better team, and we're probably a worse team than last year. And they
I wouldn't say they're better than last year.
Manhandled us.
Yeah. I would say you're both worse than last year, to be honest. Because, they had Bruce Brown. Don't have that. So their bench is worse. But I think continuity makes it seem like they're better. It's one of the, No, I'm with you. I really am. I think that Milwaukee would give you trouble, if anything, just because Giannis is going to come back any game now, according to news reports. I don't know if that's really accurate or not. But if he, I assume by the time you guys would face him in these conference finals, he would be back if they were still alive. And plus, Damian Lillard's going nuts already in the playoffs. He had 35 points in the first freaking half against the Pacers the other day. I think they give you trouble, especially if you didn't have Jimmy. Because quite frankly, Jimmy's the entire reason why you beat them last year. And I mean, literally, I'm pretty sure at one point he scored every point you had in a game. Like all 135, he scored. It felt like anyway, right? Not obviously that's not true, but it felt like it, right? So like without Jimmy, I mean, I just don't see it. But like you said, if any team can do it, it's you guys. And I think
beat them without Jimmy this year. I don't remember who all they had playing, so that could be a little.
Yeah, and plus the regular season the Bucks were so inconsistent. They lost to Charlotte, Detroit, Washington. Like they lost all the bad teams this year. And then of course we would like. I think literally so the Wizards played the Bucks and beat them by like 20. And then 2 nights later we played Milwaukee and they beat us by 25. And it's like, how?
Yeah.
Why? Like, what? You shot 34% from 3 2 days ago, and you shoot 61% from 3 today?
Yeah.
Like, it's so annoying. But anyway, I think regardless, Denver is just...
It's going to be the two of y'all.
They're one of those teams that, like, just tick me off. And it's not even that they're good. Like, I'm happy that they're good. I love Nikola Jokic, pushing and ruining Markieff Morris's career aside. I love Jokic. I think that he is exactly the kind of unselfish style player that should be the face of the NBA, that is almost as, if not more well known for his ability to pass than he is to score. But the thing with Denver is, and I said this to you a couple times, I think, and I said it today in the office, Denver is one of those teams that, like, could look mediocre to good for 3.5 quarters and just kind of hang around and then, crack their neck, crack their knuckles, shimmy their shoulders and go, all right, you're not scoring, I'm not missing for 6 straight minutes. Yeah. And then the other team doesn't score for 6 minutes and they don't miss for 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if Jamal Murray takes 29 dribbles and has 3 hands in his face, fading away from half court. He's still going to make it in the last 6 minutes of the game. I'm pretty sure I've literally seen Jokic take 29 dribbles, have 3 hands in his face, and chuck it up from half court and still make it. Like I understand that you guys are like, yeah, okay. No, I'm like dead serious. Like I think I've actually seen him
I believe it.
Like just throw shots up like this and still make them from
turning around. And
like it's nuts. Like you just sit there and like you just wave your hands in the air and go, I have no idea what to do. Like I can't do anything about this. Yeah. And so like I wouldn't be shocked if especially us. I mean, we blow leads like it's going out of style. Like I wouldn't be shocked if we were up by 40 points with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the Nuggets go, all right, you're not scoring and we're not missing, and then they somehow go on a 49-0 run in 3.5 minutes. Yeah. Like honestly, like it's and they're one of those teams that, like every other team in the Western Conference, and quite frankly in the Eastern Conference, except for maybe Milwaukee, you sit there and you think, okay, how would they play down the stretch in these big games? Will they choke? Will they not? What kind of, is Shea going to step up in those big moments? Is Anthony Edwards going to step up in those big moments consistently? We know they can, but it's a matter of will they, because they haven't been there. You know who we don't question? Denver. Denver always does it. Heck, they just did it last night.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, even if you guys somehow were able to take 15-point leads going in the fourth quarter every game against them, it doesn't matter against the Nuggets. Like they just know that they can win because they've done it before, and it's one of those things. So I don't know.
Play terrible with a lead. I hate when we're up early. I would rather be down.
I also hate when you guys are up
by 5. Yeah.
I hate it too, because that means we're losing, and that's not
fun. We blow leads like no one's business. And 2 quick things on that. 1, you mentioned Anthony Edwards. I have to ride with the team that's not the Miami Heat.
Man, Anthony Edwards is so much fun.
By far my favorite player. I know he modeled a lot of his game after Dwayne Wade, who's my all-time favorite. So he's also hilarious and all that good stuff. Also, Jokic. I don't know if you've heard about this, but he could potentially be having some off-the-court distractions going on.
His brother causing a fight or
his
something?
His brother punched someone in the face. Like, completely, I don't know what words were said, but I've watched the video a handful of times. The dude seems calm. I can't tell what he's saying, but he's talking. Doesn't even really look like he's yelling. Jokic's brothers start causing commotion. They climb over some seats, walk over to him. The dude's just talking, and he just decks him right in the face. And the dude, props to him. I'm sure you're probably watching this right now. Just,
with one eye.
Eats the punch and just doesn't react, doesn't fall. So good for him. He's probably got a nice bag coming his way. But I don't know how his brothers are gonna handle it, if they're gonna fly off to Serbia, and I don't know, extradition or any of that political stuff.
The tradition.
Say it becomes a big thing and they're not turning themselves in for whatever reason, like, they could lead to some distractions.
I mean, I guess I don't see how that would affect Jokic much, but I suppose
I don't think it would, but I'm kind of grasping at straws at anything.
Right? Yeah, you're just like, please, just have 4 bad games, please.
Yeah.
No, but I'm with you, and again, I want to be respectful of your time, so thank you so much for coming on and doing this, and truly, I do mean this, even though we've said a lot of, like, not bad things about each other's team. Obviously, I feel like it's been obviously very respectful on both ends, but I truly wish you guys good luck because I think both of our teams are going to need it at this point. I mean, it always ends up not always ends up coming down to luck. That doesn't sound right, but like a lot of this just comes down to luck. It comes down to health. You guys have not had the best luck with health, but I do wish you guys luck for the rest of the series. I hope that nobody else gets hurt. I think that's my main thing. I would just feel bad if, like, y'all just keep dropping like flies and Jaime Jaquez goes down or something, and you're just like, oh god, like, this is
anything.
Yeah. So good luck for the rest of the series. And I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out on top.
Yeah, that's my Heat in 7.
Well, obviously, I got to go Celtics in 5. I'm not going to say Celtics in 4 because it's just so unrealistic at this point. I don't think so. But anyways, we'll see. Thank you guys so much. Let me know what you guys thought about our conversation today in the comments section. If there's any questions that you want me to ask Josh, if he does ever come back on the podcast, obviously, once this series is over, maybe I'd like to have you back on, regardless of who wins and who loses. I'll bring a box of tissues for whoever was the loser in that scenario. Definitely, if I'm the loser, I will need a lot of them. Oh boy, will I need them. So let me know what you guys want me to ask him for next time if he does come on. But other than that, thank you all so very much for watching, and we will see you next time.